welcome to the 2025 Congressional Forum. We're going to be joined by, as I mentioned, a long list of distinguished guests who are leaders in education, workforce development, and economic mobility. We've asked them to come here today to present their respective visions for community colleges, workforce training, and economic development. From both new and returning members, their remarks are an opportunity for all of us to gain insight into the policy conversations that take place here in Washington and how they affect our local communities. It is now my pleasure to invite Dr. Vincent Bohe to the podium so he can kick off the forum.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Vincent Bohe, and I have the pleasure of being president of Highland Community College. It's an honor to introduce the great senator from Kansas, Dr. Roger Marshall. Senator Marshall is a first-generation college student and a proud graduate of Butler Community College. He's earned a medical doctorate and was a business owner. In addition to serving on the Senate Committee on Health, Education, and Labor and Pensions, Senator Marshall has a wealth of experiences that make him equipped to understand the challenges our students face, as well as the way to support workforce development. Please join me in welcoming the great Senator Marshall.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. You know, I think I just want to start by a big thank you. You know, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my community college experience. And, you know, I think back to the summer of 1978. I'd graduated #1 in my high school, a group like 200 students, #1, had good ACT scores. I was going to KU or K-State, I thought. And I was waiting for my scholarships and awards and to come in, and my folks made too much for a Pell Grant, but not enough to help me with college. My dad was a police officer, came from a farming background, and my dream was to become a doctor, a physician. And anyway, we finally got the final word like in July, what my scholarships would be, and it wasn't enough to pay for tuition, it wasn't enough to pay for housing. And the same week, Coach John Francis showed up at my house. It was almost like a God wink thing. And he said, "Are you sure you don't want to come out to the college?" I did 3 sports, actually 4 sports, and could have done any one of them, but he suggested I throw the javelin. I'd broken a 60-year-old javelin record, and he said, I know your emphasis is to go to med school. He knew already but I was going to be with academics. He said, "Look, we can pay you tuition books. We'll get you a part-time job. While you're working in the laboratory, there'll probably be even some time to study, those types of things as well." And I was horribly disappointed. My world was rocked that I wasn't going to get to go to KU or K-State, but I was not going to borrow money to go to college if I just didn't think I needed to do that. So went there on a track scholarship, had a 4.0 GPA coming out of community college, and got thanks to great teachers, just incredible teachers. Going back to my public school education and my coaches and the teachers and coaches there, and all through, I've been just blessed with incredible people. It's always so. Tell your people back home, thank you. That there's lots of people just like me that are waiting for that opportunity in life to live their American dream. I don't have to tell you all that our community colleges are the best bang for the dollar in education out there. It is absolutely the best return on investment. So many of us can, whether you're living at home and just staying, saving that portion of it, or you're able to find a job while you're working, all those types of things. I've shared over and over again, and my universities don't like me saying this, but the average starting salary for my community college and tech graduates in Kansas, tech college graduates, is higher than a 4-year university now. And what is I'm can assure you that their loans are a lot less as well. And again, the story over and over is, here's a community college kid, graduated, went and worked in the private world, came back in 2 years. I see it in the nursing field just over and over and over again. The best nurse managers I have, the best chief nursing officer is that person that frankly went out and got some experience and had to work for it, and he or she could do every job in that hospital. We made a big deal to take our best people that worked in the housekeeping section and try to give them the CRNA and then the best CRNAs and make them into LPNs and take the best LPNs. And I say the best, the ones that were willing to work hard to do it, right? And to make those into RNs. So over and over again, it's a story that I'm so proud to tell. So tell your people thank you. I was sharing with my group earlier that one of the proudest moments in my life was to be able to set up scholarships for my coaches back in my community college and help fund those. And they're not huge scholarships, but just so proud to get to do that as well. So just nothing but thanks from the bottom of my heart for what you do. I think from a policy standpoint, you're here at a great time. And usually people come up here and they tell me about the bill they're pushing, and I say to myself, boy, it's a long uphill battle. But I think we're in the 9th inning of the Jobs Act. I think it actually has a chance of becoming law this year. I'm not going to promise you, but certainly Dr. Cassidy, Senator Cassidy, who's head of Health Committee, loves this bill. He's going to give us a markup to do it. We have good bipartisan support. And I don't know why it wouldn't become law. And over, I just hear folks back home is give us flexibility in our Pell Grants, right? More flexibility, short term, whatever. You all know what to do with them better than I do. That's the great thing. I'm going to just say, here it is, you'll figure it out. I think we have 19 community colleges in Kansas. I visited every one of them multiple times. The backbone of those communities economically in many ways as well. So I think your Jobs Act has a chance to get a chance to finish line. And James, I forgot. Has it been through the House before, or what? So if there's a version that got through the House before, so that's a good sign as well. I think the one mistake we could do is let people add or subtract from it. And I know there's things you would like to do to make it better, but when this comes through markup, sometimes you start changing things and you lose more people than you gain. So keep your eye on that as it goes through markup, and I hope that doesn't torpedo it, that it doesn't want to make too many changes. So I'm a big fan of the Jobs Act. We've been leading that for several years as well. I asked my group today about the FAFSA rollout, and we are a long way from being perfect. But, and I've asked my folks back home if there's one or two things they need to tweak, we'll try to communicate that to the education department. And of course, the word I heard over and over, can you make it simpler? Of course, I'd love to make it simpler. I sat down, my son's in the military and came back from active duty, and for the first time ever, we had to do a FAFSA report for him to get the military money. I just finally gave up and asked my staff to help me fill it out. I did. It's just annoying that I just didn't have the attention span to deal with it. And the other thing I'm still very concerned about is from a rural community standpoint, the farmers' net worth on paper is a lot different than their income. And if we don't change things, my farmer's going to have to sell a quarter of his farm to pay for his daughter's education. So we're trying to work on that little tweak as well. The overtime rule, I get it. I got to admit, I would have enjoyed being a coach and teacher. And when I was 21 and hopping on a bus and leaving on a Thursday afternoon and driving 12 hours and watching I taught and coached at a community college 1 year too. I didn't tell you that part. So after I taught and coached 1 year, it was fun to hop on that bus and drive to Champaign, Illinois and watch my athletes compete, and got home 4 or 5 days later. And I asked my head coach, who still was there, and I said, I had a great weekend. And he said, yeah, but my kid's birthday was that weekend, or, it was something. And all of a sudden, working 40 hours for a weekend probably wasn't the career path for many of us. But all of a sudden, if that overtime rule impacts all those people, I don't know how you have assistant coaches anymore. So a little common sense goes a long way. So we'll continue to try to have a little common sense with the overtime rule. And we talked about the Farm and Small Business Act as well. Huge fan of Perkins grants. just do it, just of all the things that we got right, I think the Perkins Grants is one of them. Whenever we can take kids in high school and expose them to just a smidgen of what life could be like. I talked to my staff, we just had a little drive back from it, and I said, you know, it was like a jailbreak, you know, from the high school. You've been locked in this building for 4 years, and you get to drive out to the college and do something. It was really just such a but it made it less intimidating, right? To be able to walk in there as a freshman saying, I've done this before, I got a good grade. This is just the next chapter in this book as well. So proud of what the Perkins Grants are doing, and we'll continue to support those. So I think that's about all I got for you. So thank you so much. Appreciate your support, and I appreciate my homies as well for just the great job and the leadership that they do in their communities as well. So thanks, everybody.
Good afternoon. We're going to try that again. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Lavelle Pugh Bassett. I'm the president of Camden County College, and I am delighted to stand before you all today to introduce a friend and an alumnus of Camden County College and Camden County College's member of Congress from New Jersey's 1st Congressional District, Congressman Donald Norcross. As a consistent champion of workforce development, Congressman Norcross led efforts to pass the National Apprenticeship Act. His commitment to economic stability and mobility are highlights of his work on the House Education and Workforce Committee. I am pleased to turn the floor over to Congressman Donald Norcross to fill us in on his vision for workforce development and accessible higher education. Congressman.
Good afternoon. It's great to be here. It's really special for two reasons. Number one, obviously, the group I'm talking to. But the second reason, most of you don't know, this is where the majority meets, so I don't come here anymore. But it's nice. I'll be back soon. Again, it's great to be here. And to my college president and all of those, we have a couple of students from the community college I went to called Camden County College, and the board member, Jess Stewart. It's great to be here. Anytime they ask me to speak, I try to make it because I didn't have, let's just put it this way, your normal way to Congress. I grew up in a small town in Pensacola, New Jersey, and 4 boys. And college loans, we had no idea what that was. My 2 older brothers, you know, they paid while they went. And I looked at it a little bit differently. I love to work with my hands. The idea, at Christmas, Mom gave me a bicycle. 10 minutes later, I'm tearing it apart, trying to see how it works. Well, that's sort of what I consider community colleges. They fit everything. They're affordable, they're accessible, and that came into play particularly for me when I grew up. I started going to Camden County College, not quite sure what I wanted to do, but I knew if I went to community college, it was affordable and I could look at different things. And then I took a break. Next thing you know, I'm a single dad, and I had to finish up my degree. But ironically, my mother had also gone to night school at the same community college. And we both had one class left that we had to take, health class. Sitting there with your mom. Carol Norcross, yeah. Donald Norcross, yeah, it's my mom. So I'm rather competitive. I knew I had to get an A because I knew she was getting an A. And all I have to say is one of us graduated with a 4.0, and it was not me. And I look back fondly now on those days of education, wanting to know what was going on. I now serve on the Education Workforce Committee in the House and have been part of that for almost a decade, hearing the stories that you live each and every day. That for those who graduate high school and know what they want to do, that 4-year degree. Well, I'm going to tell you something that I speak of often, and this is in no way an insult to anybody in this room. College, is that vehicle that gets you to a career, a job. It is not the end, unless, of course, you want to be a professor, and that's different. And that's incredibly important because somehow they think that just a name of a big university, and I have seen time after time going into college debt, because one of the greatest things we ever did was to create that opportunity to fund those who wanted to go to college. One of the worst things we ever did was to create that fund. As you know, many parents don't sit down with their child and say, do you really want to spend 75 grand a year, and it's higher than that, to go to that school? Try it out. I tell people all the time, please go to a community college. See what you like before you start going and wanting to those private colleges. When my first son went to college, it was 60 grand a year. When he graduated, it's over 95. $95,000 a year. And the quality of education that you provide is the same. And those are the opportunities. So when our president decided to forgive college debt, and I'm all in, I said, why are we just forgiving college debt? How about for the one whose mom or dad decided to put the mortgage on the house and pay that off? They get nothing. How about the one who went into the military? They get nothing. You literally are talking about which child you love the most. And I come down with the opinion we love them all. Give them an educational credit if they weren't one of those. So these are discussions that I had with my president at the time. And he looked at me, he goes, we want to forgive college debt. I said, well, we'll start there. It's for who? So as we go on, the college debt is just incredibly serious. The Pell Grants, the flexibility, certainly want to do that. The surrounding services that you provide, and I look at two of the students who are going there now and myself, having that childcare on site is so important. Because for those who have that opportunity, they know exactly what to do. They're not the challenge. The challenge is how do we fit it for all? And that's where you come in. You'll hear shortly from Ranking Member Bobby Scott, who I've dealt with for a number of years, who understands this. So at the end of the day, if you want to go to college, that's fine. I'll just leave you with one thought, which many parents have this. I have 3 children. One is an electrician, one's a doctor, and one's a lawyer. Only one of them has his house paid for, no college debt, and has a retirement fund we all would like. And you can guess which one that is. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am Dr. Maria Farr. I'm the president of Pitt Community College in North Carolina, and I feel privileged today to stand before you and introduce North Carolina's 8th Congressional District Congressman, Mark Harris. Congressman Harris is a freshman in the 119th Congress, and it was his passion and drive to serve the constituents of North Carolina that led to his role as a United States representative. Currently, Congressman Harris is on the House Agriculture and Education and Workforce Committees, where I am sure that he will do great work for his community. Congressman Harris.
Well, thank you so much for that introduction and for the opportunity to be with you here this afternoon. She was exactly right. I'm a freshman congressman, and that means I'm still trying to find my way around the Capitol. And not only that, trying to keep up with the harried schedule that is going from committee meeting to hearing to hearing. In fact, I had 2 hearings happening at the same time today. And so getting from one to the other, you find yourself at the mercy of your staff, and certainly very thankful for the opportunity to be able to share. And honored to be a part of this Community College Congressional Forum that you are hosting here this afternoon, and honored as a part of it. I'm honored because education has certainly been a part of our family for a long time. I tell folks I come from an education family in the sense that my wife is a teacher, my daughter is a teacher, My wife's mother was a 30-year public school teacher in Hendersonville, North Carolina. Her dad was a coach and teacher, coach, and then became superintendent of schools in Hendersonville, North Carolina as well. And then her sister, also a principal of a school in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County Schools. So I've seen education, and I hear education policy all the time talked about in my home. But I want to just take an opportunity today to just let you know of the importance that educators play in the future of both our students and our nation. You know, America's current education system begs the question, is it true education if we're only giving students a checklist of items to memorize? True education, in my heart, is equipping students with the ability to think, the ability to reason, and the ability to wonder. And of course, it's to prepare future generations to get out into the workforce. And I think that is absolutely crucial to what you are involved in. Let's face it, the four-year university model isn't affordable in many cases or realistic for many students and many families throughout my district and the 8th District of North Carolina, and for that matter, throughout our state. It's not always the best choice to align with someone's God-given talents and calling for them to go to a four-year school or university. Community colleges that you're involved with, I'm convinced, play the vital role in making higher education accessible and helping develop students who are truly ready to contribute to their community. If we learned anything from the previous administration, for my take, is that throwing money at the education system ultimately won't fix it. If we're going to spend taxpayer money on education, it has to be as an investment. And I believe that we align very much in those goals of investing in our students and investing in our families and investing in our future. In my view, that often means getting the federal government out of the way and enabling the state and the local communities to be able to make the difference that they can. Because community colleges are leading the way in skills development, in creating partnerships with employees and employers, developing innovative study plans and work-based learning, community college professors and administrators, I believe, in this day, are demonstrating they really do care about preparing students for the real work and for our future. There's a lot riding right now in this government and a lot riding on our future in decisions that are being made, from the executive to the legislative to the judicial branch. All of them right now, we're at such a pivotal time in this country. And the role that you are playing, I want you to understand, is critically important to me. And when I was called and asked, and I do serve on Judiciary Committee, and I do serve on Agriculture Committee, and when I was called and asked if I was willing to serve and take a third committee and be a part of education and workforce, I had to think a short time about the workload. But when I thought about the priorities, and I thought about my family background, and I thought about the interest in North Carolina and in our families and our students, I had to say yes. So you'll find me today making this commitment to you, to use my role on the Education and Workforce Committee to be constantly looking for ways that we can empower our communities, to which community colleges are at the heart of helping you do what you do best. So I thank you for the privilege of being able to come and share with you this afternoon. I thank you for what you're doing, and I pray that you will just keep doing what you're doing and that we'll be able to work together and make an investment together in our nation. God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.
Good afternoon. I am Dr. Adrienne Bennings, the president of Portland Community College, and it is my esteemed honor to be here to introduce Congresswoman Suzanne Bonamici of Oregon's 1st Congressional District. Congresswoman Bonamici has been a consistent, a tireless, and a fierce champion for affordable higher education and workforce development. In the last Congress, she sponsored the Opportunity to Address College Hunger Act and co-sponsored a Stronger Workforce for America Act, making her commitment to student success and workforce development clear. As a community college graduate herself from Lane Community College, Congresswoman Bonamici shares a lived experience with many of our students. Please help me in giving a warm welcome to Congresswoman Suzanne Bonamici.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Bennings, and thank you all for being here today. I just assured my new colleague, Representative Harris, that it's not uncommon to be in two committees at the same time, so he'll adjust pretty quickly. So I'm really excited to be here today, and thank you to the ACCT and the AACC, I live in a world of acronyms, for the event, but also for the invitation to be with you today. And Dr. Bennings, again, thank you for that kind introduction. It's great to see bipartisan support for community colleges. I see my role on the Education and Workforce Committee, on which I've served for more than a dozen years, as having a path for everybody with the recognition that not everybody's on the same path. So I want to express my appreciation for the work that you're doing to tell your representatives and senators how vital community colleges are for so many reasons. So I've been a longtime supporter of community colleges because I know they're critical to the district I represent in Northwest Oregon, but also around the country. And as Dr. Benning said, community college changed my life. I didn't go to college after high school because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I got into a college, but I wasn't certain what I wanted to do. I was working, so I worked for several years, and then I found a passion. I was really interested in law. And so I found a great legal assistant program at Lane Community College in Eugene, Oregon, and it changed my life and the trajectory of my career. So I did that for 2 years. I was on my own. I'd been away from home, and my family was not in a position to help me. So I did my 2 years at community college, and then they would not let me in law school without a bachelor's degree. So then I did another 2 years at the university. I transferred many of my credits, but not all of them, so I had to work pretty hard. And then I did the 3 years of law school, and I did all of that with a combination of grants, loans, and work study. But at the time, really long time ago, higher education was a lot less expensive, and that's not what I'm hearing from people today. So I got this affordable higher education that opened the doors of opportunity for me. And I'm just hearing today that there are doors that aren't opening, either because of the financial barriers or challenges that students are having. And the doors of opportunity need to be open for today's students as well. And community colleges will play, obviously, a significant role in opening those doors because you are affordable, accessible, and provide a valuable education. So today, when we talk about college students, a lot of people, not people in this room, but a lot of people think, oh, it's an 18-year-old in a dorm with a meal plan, right? But that is not the case with community college students. Like I was, many community college students are non-traditional. The average age now is about 28. Many community college students have needs of their own. I was just speaking with some PCC students in my office, and they said one of the things they need to have is childcare. And the needs are significantly different from what many people think is a college student in a university with a dorm and a meal plan. So whether it be food support, healthcare support, childcare support, these are really important, and as you all know, make a difference in terms of retention and completion of programs. So at community colleges, people from different backgrounds with different lived experiences learn not only from their classes, but learn from each other as well. And what community colleges do to contribute to the economy is significant. They provide oftentimes students with these diverse pathways to credentials, or like I did, transfer to a four-year university. But also the role in advancing social mobility and breaking cycles of poverty. We have wonderful programs in Oregon that help particularly first-generation students, and great programs like Gear Up and TRIO as well. So I represent 3 amazing community colleges: Portland Community College, Tillamook Bay Community College, and Classip Community Colleges. For those of you for the geography, Classip and Tillamook are out on the coast. So they're pretty rural, but really important parts of the community. And PCC, that's like state-of-the-art, 4 campuses. It's really pretty amazing what they can do to prepare students for in-demand careers. They have the wonderful programs to get people into the semiconductor industry, for example, aviation, construction, agriculture, advanced manufacturing. Dr. Bennings and I were just at one of their sites that prepares students to go into advanced manufacturing. So they're doing so much to help with workforce issues and also give that hope to people. And then at Tillamook Bay and Clatsop, we see examples of how they serve rural communities. Tillamook Bay recently broke ground on a healthcare education building, which is exciting because that's a big need out there to get more people in nursing and healthcare occupations. Clatsop Community College has strong partnerships with employers to provide various paid internships in the county. And this is where the Pacific Ocean meets the Columbia River. So I have this amazing maritime science program right there at Clatsop Community College. So as a senior member of the House Education Committee, and I'm also the co-chair of the Bipartisan Career and Technical Education Caucus and Apprenticeship Caucus, I'm committed to improving these academic and career opportunities for all students, regardless of their background, and as I said, regardless of what path they take. And I led, and as Dr. Benning said, and supported bipartisan efforts like the Workforce Pell Act, Opportunities for Success Act to strengthen community colleges' workforce development programs. But I have to say right now, I have concerns because education and higher education are under attack. Concerned about the administration's executive orders and the chaos around funding freezes and what that's going to mean, and the message that we send around the globe that we are not prioritizing education. So I'm worried about those, but I'm going to fight for those because I know how important they are. The Department of Education is important for administering those programs. We're always looking for smarter, better ways to do things. We aren't ignoring that, but I'm concerned about the doors closing and not having access to information about what the plans are there. So I also have some concerns about support for minority serving institutions, including HSIs. We don't know the future there, and also concerns about the implications of anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts and initiatives. I often think they're misunderstood and typically valuable programs. So the bottom line, though, is this: that we have strong support for community colleges. It's critical. We need your voices to preserve access to affordable education for all students. So it's never been more important to tell your stories and to talk about the need for community colleges and for supporting community colleges, especially Pell Grants. I've also been working on reforming the work-study program, which is desperately overdue for an update. So we're going to help meet the workforce challenges of today and tomorrow with these investments in education and workforce. And as Congress works on legislation to support students and higher education and workforce development, I will keep fighting to keep community colleges as a very important part of that conversation. So thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for sharing your stories with members of Congress and, very importantly, their staff. Today, your advocacy is desperately needed, and it will make a difference as we face the challenges ahead together. So thank you again. Have a great visit, and I hope it doesn't keep snowing too much for you. Thank you again.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Paula Pando, president of Reynolds Community College, serving the greater Richmond region. It is my profound honor to introduce Senator Tim Kaine from the great Commonwealth of Virginia. Okay. Senator Kaine has been a steadfast champion for community colleges, fighting for policies and resources that empower us to fully deliver on our mission, a mission rooted in the belief that everyone deserves a shot at the American dream. From founding and co-chairing the Senate Career and Technical Education's Caucus to sponsoring the Jobs Act, which expands access to high-quality short-term programs leading to in-demand careers, his commitment to higher education, workforce development, and economic mobility is undeniable. Please join me in welcoming Senator Tim Kaine.
Well, thank you, Paula. Paula's my hometown community college president. I live in Richmond, and I'm so glad to be here with her and Dr. Dore, who's the head of our community college system, and other Virginians and all community college champions. I'm especially happy to be here with Congressman Bobby Scott, who is the lead Democrat on the Educational Labor Committee and a huge champion of community colleges. And you know, what I really thought I would do is, there's one policy initiative that I really want to promote again and again and again. I've been passionate about it for years. We're getting closer and closer and closer. But then I want to also ask for your help in a challenging time. So on the short-term Pell. I grew up in a welding shop. My dad ran an ironworking and welding shop. Then I ran a school that taught kids to be welders and carpenters in Honduras with Jesuit missionaries in 1980 and 81. And those experiences really taught me the value of high-quality career and technical education. When I got into public life now 30 years ago as a city councilman, then mayor, and then through state government, I began to really notice the disparity in the way public policy treats college degree acquisition and high-quality skills and credentials acquisition. So Pell Grants, which are a fantastic program, and we've made Pell very flexible. Full-time students or part-time students, students who are incarcerated. We've made it real flexible, but we've never allowed it to be flexible to help students afford high-quality career and technical education that doesn't fit within a traditional college semester. So when I came to the Senate and I started working on issues, I took up the cause from my earlier time in local and state government to really advance career and tech, and worked with then Senator Rob Portman on the idea, of course, we should make Pell Grants available to high-quality career and tech. What an enormously popular and bipartisan idea it has been, and yet we still haven't accomplished it. We get through one committee, but not the other. We get through one House, but not the other. We get very, very close, but all the while gaining more bipartisan support, and all the while speaking more kind of directly to the conditions of our economy and the conditions of our workforce. In the aftermath of two significant achievements during the Biden administration, the infrastructure law and the CHIPS manufacturing law, the need for high-quality career and technical skills in our workforce is even more acute. There's a number of things we're going to have to do to solve that workforce need. We're going to need a workforce-based immigration reform. We're going to need more affordable child care, because a whole lot of people are out of the workforce who want to be back in because they can't find affordable child care. But part of the answer for the American workforce and the American economy is more incentives that will help people go into high-quality career and technical fields. And so I have worked on this bill for a number of years, and and just filed it last week in the Senate again with Senators Collins, Smith, Marshall. Senators Marshall and Collins, Republicans, Tina Smith from Minnesota, and me, so it's four of us on the HELP committee. And we feel really good about our prospects. We have many other co-sponsors. You'll hear from Congressman Scott after me. I want to acknowledge the really good work that he's done in the House with Virginia Fox on this bill. And they have worked on solving one of the issues that's been kind of a challenge over on the Senate side, which is you want to make sure that these are programs that are high quality. How do you define the quality metric? And I think the work that has been done on the House side over years has kind of really narrowed in on kind of a good way to define the quality metric so that we know when we're funding these programs they are, in fact, high quality. So this is my number one priority on the HELP committee on the education side. In the Senate, we put health and education in the same committee, so I have education and workforce priorities and I have health priorities. This is my number one priority in the education and workforce. I think the time is right. The community colleges have been the best champions of this idea. And I'm so impressed with what I see as I travel around my Virginia community colleges. Of course, they're already doing a lot of high-quality career in tech, but they often have to do it in the framework of a 15-week semester if they want students to be able to access Pell Grants, if they're Pell eligible. And some of the courses, my community college presidents would rather change it from a 15-week course to like a 6-week, 5-day-a-week, 8 hours a day, super intense. That more matches the schedule that the student, the worker, would rather have, but right now they can't get Pell for it. So I think my community colleges are already doing a good job at this. They're going to do an even better job if we can get this bill passed. That's my top priority. Now, we need your help. We need your help. This is a most challenging time in the first few weeks of this administration. And I'll tell you, one of the things that's challenging is there's so many actions happening every day, and I'll be blunt, Congress is not being given a heads up or insight about what's going on. So we're not being told, here's an action that we're going to take with respect to the Department of Education. Oh, I really don't like that action, but at least you told me. No, there's no advance notice on any of this stuff. All these executive orders, rumors about the Department of Education is going to be terminated. We find out about it once it's happened, and sometimes not even then. The way we really find out about it is you call us. I've been using this analogy to describe the activities the last couple of weeks. I feel like somebody has taken a box with a jigsaw puzzle in it and dumped it out on the table in front of me upside down. So all I see is the cardboard back of all these pieces. And they didn't give me the box with the picture on it so that I even know what the puzzle looks like. That's the effect of all these executive actions, rumors, the Doge boys or whatever doing all this stuff. When I talk to a constituent and they tell me, you know, I'm running a Head Start program, but I couldn't get my funding this week, a piece of the puzzle turns over. Okay, I start to see that. I talk to a community health clinic and they tell me that their funding is frozen, another piece turns over. I talk to educational institutions and they tell me, boy, this slashing of NIH funding, this is really going to affect other pieces turn over. We are assembling the puzzle and seeing what the overall goal is based upon the communication that we're getting from stakeholders, from our K-12 system, from our community colleges, other higher ed, from our local officials who are really psyched about an infrastructure project only to have it paused midstream. So it's always important to communicate. Every year you're here and you need to be. It's especially important this year because this is a somewhat unprecedented time in that actions are being taken without us being given the advance notice. And this is not happening to me because I'm a Democratic senator. I talk to my Republican senators and they're getting the same kind of surprise factor every day. What's next? So your visit comes at a most propitious time, and I'm going to be with a number of my Virginia colleagues here in an hour or so. And let me just say one other thing. Our community colleges do as good a job as anybody in this country in dealing with underrepresented, high-need populations. For some reason, that's now maybe not cool, I guess. You know, the whole attack on DEI, I was the mayor of Richmond, Virginia. It was the capital of the Confederacy. I was a civil rights lawyer for 17 years before I got into this line of work. I know what it means when people go after DEI. This ain't subtle. It's not hard to figure out what this means when people go after DEI. What's wrong with diversity? I mean, I think it's a strength of our country. What's wrong with inclusion? Some people don't like the equity word. I don't find anything troubling about equity. It's a lot better than inequity. I mean, so this is a particularly challenging time, and you guys do this as well as any institution in this country. Serve hard-to-serve populations that haven't had every opportunity. You know, you really are as inclusive as we get in this country. And I just hope you'll stay at it and avoid buzzwords if that'll help, but just keep being people who lead with your heart and want to serve everyone. That's what's so special about our community colleges. I'm going to tell you two stories that I heard from federal employees last week about how far this attack on DEI is going, because they'll kind of shock you. There's an employee at a federal agency, I'm not going to mention which one in D.C., who is a cancer survivor and hosts a once-a-month virtual cancer survivors roundtable discussion with other employees in the agency. I'm going through chemo. Do you have any advice? I'm going through radiation. Do you have any advice? You know, is there a good, behavioral health person I can talk to because this has been tough? Ordered by his supervisor, you no longer can have the monthly virtual cancer survivors discussion during your lunch hour. You can no longer do that. Clearly, this is a poorly written anti-DEI order that's percolating down through the agency, and somebody has read it and think, well, I don't know, this cancer survivor lunch, that sounds kind of like a DEI thing. The cruelty, the incompetence. A second employee came up to me last week and said, I am on unpaid at her agency, and she's the head of an agency in the education space, head of a department in an agency in the education space. I'm on unpaid administrative leave. I'm sorry, I'm on paid administrative leave. Usually paid administrative leave is for somebody who is being investigated for a disciplinary infraction. But you're on paid leave because they haven't yet found that you did anything wrong. But then she paused and said, I'm on paid administrative leave, ... for a non-disciplinary reason. For a non-disciplinary reason. What reason is that? A previous secretary of this department in the first Trump term suggested that if we want to be good supervisors, we could go to a 2-day diversity training. And I signed up for that, and it's in my record that I attended a 2-day diversity training under the current president's previous administration, and because of that, I have been put on indefinite paid administrative leave. I'm being paid by the taxpayer, but I'm locked out of my office, I'm locked out of my email because I attended. I said, wait, were you the instructor? Were you the organizer? No, I attended it at the recommendation of the head of my agency. This is a demonstration of how really cruel this is, but also just way beyond the bounds of what's appropriate. I've been meeting with my colleges the last few days. They're looking at their own programs and trying to decide if we take this word out, can we just keep serving people? And you're smart people, and if you can figure out ways to make it sound more palatable, then make it sound more palatable. But don't cut back even by a percentage, even by 1% on your efforts to serve the populations that so depend on this robust network of community colleges that serve every city and county in Virginia and that serve every city and county all across this country. We're really counting on you right now. And if you run into problems, if you're doing what you believe your mission compels you to do and you run into problems, then reach out to folks like Congressman Scott and me or your own representatives. Don't skimp on the service. If you have an obstacle put in your way, reach out to us and see if we can clear it for you. We won't be able to clear everyone, but we'll be able to clear some. But don't, in advance, cut back on your advocacy and your efforts. Go full speed ahead. If you have a problem, reach out to us and see if we can help resolve it for you. Thanks for everything you do. It's really great to be here with you today.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Marcia Constant, president of Tidewater Community College in Virginia. It is my honor today to introduce Congressman Robert Bobby Scott, who serves the constituents of Virginia's 3rd Congressional District. Notably, Congressman Scott is the ranking member of the House Committee on Education and Workforce, a position of leadership he has used to spearhead efforts that are top priorities for our college. These include the Jobs to Compete Act, a Stronger Workforce for America Act, which would make critical improvements to the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act that we know as WIOA, and the Bipartisan Workforce Pell Act, which took months of negotiation with education leaders on both sides of the aisle and aims to make short-term higher education programming affordable and accessible. We are grateful for all these efforts that allow access to higher education and support workforce development. So without further ado, now it is my pleasure to introduce Ranking Member Scott.
Thank you, Dr. Constant, for your very kind introduction. Dr. Duray, who's here somewhere, there he is. Dr. Duray, other officials, it's certainly a pleasure to be here. I saw Elma Adams come in, a representative from North Carolina who's a senior member of the Education and Workforce Committee. Where'd Elma go? Elma Adams, you'll be hearing from her shortly. Not only do I have Tidewater Community College, I also have Virginia Peninsula Community College in the district. They do great work, and so very proud to represent them. I'm also very pleased to be here with the Association of Community Colleges and the American Association of Community Colleges for inviting me to speak today. As the top Democrat on the Education Workforce Committee, we're doing the best we can to advance the cause of education, particularly the opportunities that you afford young people. This has been a fairly tough time. Last couple of weeks, we found ourselves with a now blocked constitutional amendment on birthright citizenship, another now blocked funding freeze that many of you may have suffered through or may still be suffering through. The chaos has just been very difficult to deal with. All this time, I try to remind people that with all this chaos and confusion, the cost of eggs has gone up in the last 3 weeks. So let's not lose our focus. Tim Kaine just talked a lot about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Without going into much more detail, this is the first frontal attack we've had on civil rights in about 60 years. Not since George Wallace has anybody really campaigned on rolling back civil rights. And we have the situation now where states' rights has been the battle cry. It used to be states' rights was a battle cry of the segregationists. And now they're using it like it's a good thing. But we're going to do what we can to try to maintain opportunities for everybody. But regardless of those challenges, we're also dealing with the challenge of, are we going to have a Department of Education? That's, we believe, only been delayed by virtue of the fact that the nominee for Secretary of Education hadn't had her hearing yet, and they don't want this to be part of the hearing. So as soon as she has her hearing, we'll have recommendations to abolish the Department of Education. Now, that's an interesting reaction to the recent NAEP scores where the students aren't doing as well as they should. And so therefore, we should, in response, get rid of the Department of Education. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Anyway, we're going to do what we can. I think they recognize that that idea has to go through Congress. And I think the idea that it can get through Congress is, I just put that as unlikely, even if you have real strong support. The last time the idea came up, there were 60 Republicans that voted no. Now, they weren't instructed on how to vote that time. They just voted the way they felt like voting. But with the recommendation from the president, we'll see how many of them hang in there and support the Department of Education. But despite all those challenges, there is some bipartisan work going on. I think there's some work on the Tax-Free Pell Grant Act, which would exclude all of the Pell Grant from taxable income and expands eligible expenses. I think you have identified the fact that some people get a Pell Grant and then look up and have to pay taxes on it because the portion of the Pell Grant that didn't actually go to tuition actually went to other expenses necessary to go to college, counted as income on which they had to pay taxes. I think most people view that as something undesirable, and we're going to try to make sure that happens. We're also going to reauthorize the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, WIOA. We had it all set and ready to go. It was part of the last continuing resolution back in December. It was tucked in there so that as we had the continuing resolution, WIOA would be reauthorized with all its good work, all the bipartisan work that we'd been working on for about 2 years. And just before then, somebody came along and said, no, we want this, that, and the other in it, and the whole thing fell apart. And when they put it back together, WIOA wasn't there, so we have to start back from scratch to reauthorize WIOA. It includes help to upskill opportunities, help people who've been displaced from their job, and help those who have been traditionally disadvantaged actually get jobs, those justice involved, young people, so that they can get on track to get good jobs. We're also, and Tim mentioned, went into detail about the Workforce Pell Act. Most people, when they hear that you can use a Pell Grant or a college course, but if it leads to a college degree, but not if it just leads to a good job. Well, most people view that as kind of absurd, and if it leads to a good job, you ought to be able to use the Pell Grant. The trick, as Tim mentioned, is to limit it just to quality programs, because we already have enough problems with the Pell Grant with some for-profit organizations that have abused it, and we don't want Pell Grants, somebody to set up a little storefront operation, deal out worthless certificates, and take all the Pell money. And so we believe we have a formula that knocks out, we believe, about 90% of the for-profit operations and about a third of the nonprofit operations, because they can't prove the quality of their programs. And if that takes place, we're ready to go, except for the fact that it also has to be paid for, and that gets a little complicated. And every time you want to pay for it, somebody who's paying for it doesn't like the idea. So we're still working on it, but I think the popularity of the idea will carry the day. Virginia has a lot of programs, David, where for small tuition, you can get a short-term program, and they've calculated it and shown that it increases a person's salary 25, 50, even 100% short-term program. But they got to pay the little tuition. Sometimes WIOA programs can pay the tuition, sometimes other programs can pay it. But you've seen the studies that show that most families can't come up with $300. Well, if you have a $500 or $1,000 tuition, they can't go. Well, with a Pell Grant, all of a sudden they can go and they can transform their lives, and that's why there's so much support for the program. So I'm optimistic that we can make progress on many initiatives this session. There'll obviously be a lot of things we're not going to agree on, but we need to expand opportunities, and we have the opportunity to do that. In that context, I'm looking forward to working with our new chairman, Chairman Wahlberg, from Michigan, as we advance the legislation that we do have bipartisan support on. We've shown that we can work together on issues, workforce in particular, and Tim is an easy person to work with, and so we expect to be able to get a lot of things done. So I want to thank you for your advocacy. Thank you for all that you do in increasing opportunities for our next generation. So just keep up the good work. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Jeff Cox, President of the North Carolina Community College System, and it's my honor to be here with you today to introduce Congresswoman Alma Adams from North Carolina's 12th Congressional District. Congresswoman Adams is a consistent champion and advocate for higher education and has been for years. We see this with her leadership in the historically black college and universities caucus and her initiatives that support minority-serving institutions. Yet most notably, she is now the ranking member of the Higher Education and Workforce Subcommittee. We can rely on her voice to push for what our best is. Excuse me, I'm getting that all jumbled up. To push for what's best for our students. And so please join me in welcoming Congressman Alma Adams.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Cox. It's good to be here. Let me first of all thank the American Association of Community Colleges and the Association of Community College Trustees for bringing us together today And for all of you, our trustees, our presidents, our administrators, and especially to our students, thank you for everything that you do. I want to brag a little bit about North Carolina. We have 58 community colleges in our state, so we are about education. You know, when I think about community colleges, I don't think about policy first. I think about people. I think about the students that I've met in North Carolina who got their start at a community college, never looked back. The parents working a job or two while going to school at night because they want to build something better for their kids. The folks who thought higher education wasn't for them until a community college gave them a reason to believe otherwise. And that's what makes community colleges special. You meet students where they are. You don't shut people out. You don't ask if they took the traditional path. You just open the door and say, come on in and let's get to work. And we need to be just as committed to making sure that those doors stay open, not just in name, but in reality. Now, some folks don't understand what community colleges really do. A few years ago, President Trump said we need more vocational schools, as if that's not what you already do. As if community colleges aren't already training the nurses, the electricians, the cyber security experts, and the business leaders of tomorrow. And so let's be clear. Community colleges are workforce development. You don't just prepare students for jobs, you prepare them for careers. You're the ones building the pipeline for high-demand industries, healthcare, IT, skilled trades, clean energy, advanced manufacturing. But community colleges are about more than just workforce training. They're about economic mobility. They're about building stronger communities. They give students a place to start, whether that's in a trade, a technical program, or on a path to a 4-year degree. And right now, we're at a crossroads. Because for all of the talk about investing in workforce development, we're seeing cuts to Pell Grants, when we know that affordability is already one of the biggest challenges for our students. Cuts to workforce training programs at a time when employers are desperate for skilled workers. Cuts to research funding, when our community colleges are leading the way in innovation. As the ranking member of the Subcommittee on Higher Education and Workforce Development, I promise you that I'm going to work against any attempt to take any resources away from our students, our institutions, or our teachers. And we cannot afford to talk about career pathways while making it harder for students to access them. And we cannot say that we want to strengthen the workforce while pulling resources from the very institutions that train it. And we cannot ignore the role that community colleges play in every single corner of this country. Rural communities, urban centers, suburbs. Community colleges don't just serve America, they are America. And I don't have to tell this room that community colleges play a huge role in training future educators either. And that's what I did a lot during those 40 years of teaching at Bennett College in Greensboro. And that's why I'm working to reintroduce the Educators for America Act, because if we want great teachers in every classroom, we need to start by supporting the schools that train them. Community colleges are where students go to get a second chance, where a single parent can take classes at night after putting their kids to bed, where a veteran can transition into a new career after serving their country, or where a first-generation student can take the first step towards something bigger. And let's talk about what happens when we fail to support these institutions. What happens when a community college has to cut a program because of funding shortfalls? And what happens when a student can't finish their degree because they lost access to financial aid? And what happens when a small town loses its local nursing program because policymakers didn't think it was worth the investment. These aren't just hypothetical questions. This is happening right now. And we talk a lot about keeping America competitive. We talk a lot about building a workforce for the future. We talk a lot about making sure that no one gets left behind. Well, this is where that happens, right here in our nation's community colleges. You are the foundation. You're the pipeline for workforce development. You are economic mobility. And I'm reminded of W.E.B. Du Bois, who once said that of all of the civil rights for which the world has struggled and fought for 500 years, the right to learn is undoubtedly the most fundamental. And I also think about children coming to school early, learning and going into a community college or even a four-year institution. And I think about Abraham Lincoln, who reminded us that a child is someone who's going to carry on what we've started. And when we're gone, they will attend to those things that we think are important. They're going to move in and take over our churches, our schools, our corporations. They'll take control of our cities, our states, and our nations. And we can make all the policies that we please, but how they are carried out will depend on the children. All of our books are going to be judged, praised, or condemned by them. Why? Because the state of our foundation, the state of humanity, is in the children's hands. And so let's continue to project what's right. Let's invest in that right for those children who will be in your classrooms, and let's make sure that Washington never forgets it. I certainly appreciate the opportunity for being here. I appreciate all that you do. Thank you so much. God bless.
Good afternoon. Going off script just briefly, it says Dr. Michael Ash introduces Representative Marionette Miller Meeks. I'm not Michael Ash. He's taller and better looking than I am. But I am Bob Jennings of Iowa Lakes Community College in Northwest Iowa. I can quantify myself to introduce the Congresswoman because I'm formerly from Wapello, Iowa, down in the southeastern part of the state where she represents, and I'm a proud SEC alum at Southeastern Community College. We have some SEC trustees here today, and so everybody, I'm proud to be SEC. Go Blackhawks. And I'm also proud to be an Iowa Lakes Community College trustee. It's an honor to introduce Iowa's first congressional district Congresswoman Marionette Miller Meeks. Congresswoman Miller Meeks' story is truly inspiring. Her family did not have the means to pay for her education. So, Congresswoman Miller Meeks made the decision to leave home at the age of 16 and pursue an education at San Antonio Junior College. Later, she enlisted in the United States Army. Her story is not unlike the stories of our own very students. I am confident that the Congresswoman's message for us today will resonate with us and will be insightful. So with that, please help me welcome Congresswoman Marionette Miller Meeks.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Typically, I start off speeches by saying my policy is that the length of your speech is inversely proportional to your height. Since you're running over time, I'll forgive that policy status for this. So for those of you who went to a community college, stand up. Okay. See, I'm a doctor, so I thought you needed to stretch. So you can sit down. Thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be here with you, and I will be brief. My support for community college comes that when they mentioned my bio to you and that I left home, so I was burned at the age of 15, decided to become a doctor. My father had not gone to college. My mother had a GED. My two older brothers went into the Army, one to Vietnam. My older sister wanted to get married and have kids. I took my older sister with me to community college and decided if I became a nurse, I could work my way into med school. So my plan was, after being burned, to become a physician, and that's exactly what I did. So what you do in offering a platform for people to get an education. Doesn't matter if it's vocational, doesn't matter if it's to start on their way to a four-year college. It doesn't matter if it's just to be a lifetime learner. You don't know how many times I've tried to sign up for community college to do apiary or keep bees. You provide a pathway for individuals to love learning, to love education, and to be lifelong learners, which of all things that we do changes the trajectory of a person's life, whether it's a career pathway or whether it is educating, training, and raising their children. That's something worth protecting. So whether it's looking at the status of Pell Grants or making sure that Pell Grants are available or making sure on the Veterans Committee, which I chair the Health Subcommittee, that GI Bill's benefits can be used for certificates or for other career pathways rather than a four-year degree, I am with you on that. I support what you're doing, support the role that you play in community colleges in this one place in the world where there is upward mobility, where you can come in and out of the education system at will. What other country can you do that? You can do that in the United States. So this little jigsaw puzzle pieces that you play are extremely important for all of us in upward mobility, in career pathways, in concurrent enrollment with the high school. You're providing opportunities for all of us. So thank you for that. I appreciate all that you do, and I very much enjoy going to visit the community colleges where I got my start, as did my husband, as did most of the members in my family, as the first person ever to go to college, ever to get a four-year degree, ever to get a master's, and the only one to go to medical school. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Robert Exley, president of Alvin Community College, and it's a pleasure to introduce from the great state of Texas an Alvin Community College alumnus, Congressman Randy Weber.
That's all you need. That's what I like. Short announcements to tell people I'm here. Now, look, I love following Marionette Miller Meeks. You know, she's only about this tall. We call her Landslide Miller Meeks because she won her first victory by 6 votes. She won her second one by 600 votes. And she's a real fighter, in case y'all didn't figure that out. Having her for a friend gives me status. And I had a friend once in the 5th grade that gave me the measles, and this is a lot better deal. Come on, I got to get y'all lined up. And thank you, Doctor, for introducing me. As he mentioned, I went to Alvin Junior College for 4 years. I wouldn't be standing here in front of you if it wasn't for junior colleges. I got out of school in 71. I'm an old timer. I'm 71 years old. Got out of high school. And wanted to go to the University of Houston, I thought, and I missed the deadline to register. So I went down to Alvin Junior College, and it was to change my life forever. How many of y'all know where Alvin, Texas is? Some of y'all know where Alvin, Texas is. Absolutely. How many of y'all know where Texas is? Boy, that wasn't very many of you. Yeah. You know, you can always tell a Texan, you just can't tell him much, okay? So I got to get y'all wound up here. Look, our region stretches along, the District 14th of Congress stretches from Louisiana border. How many of y'all know where Louisiana is, that other foreign country? Come on now. And any Louisianians here? We got to separate, then I'll go slow and I'll tell everything twice, okay? I'm just messing with you. Look, junior colleges are really the backbone of American education. I know that very, very personal. Southeast Texas, my home, is 7 ports. We have more ports than any other member of Congress. Some have 4, we have 7. You want to talk about jobs in Southeast Texas, start the Louisiana line, we go Orange County, Jefferson County, Galveston County, southern half of Brazoria County. We create a lot. We produce 65% of the nation's jet fuel, 80% of the nation's military-grade fuel. For us, Southeast Texas is what I call the salt of the earth. You got men and women out there making it happen so we can power airplanes, we can power automobiles, we can do that stuff. I wouldn't be here today if I didn't get my start at Alvin Junior College. I could go on and on about the district, but let me tell you something. My bride of 48 years, November the 6th was our 48th wedding anniversary. Well, give her a hand. She hadn't killed me yet, and I can prove it, okay? But, you know, she keeps saying that what is the latest? She said, husbands never listen to their wives, or something like that. Some of y'all will get that on the way home. But look, like many students, I didn't have the luxury of going to a big university. My dad owned a gas station. I got off the bus in kindergarten on Telephone Road, 3 miles south of the Hobby Airport, and then I put a red shop rag in my back pocket. That was 1958, for those of you who are counting how old I am, born in 53. You know, and all I could do was sweep the gas pack where they had the 2 pumps. That's all I could do at 5 years old. What do you think they would say about child labor today if they knew that was going on? Times have changed. So I tell you what, I went to Alvin Junior College. It took me 4 years. I had to work part-time. I started an air conditioning company in '81, and I tell you what, one of our instructors, and I had a degree, by the way. Let me back up. I went to the University of Houston, Clear Lake, graduated from there with a degree in business, a minor in public education, a minor in criminal education. Okay, and I decided and I worked for my parents in their RV business, and I decided I want to start a company of my own. Back to Alvin Junior College, took refrigeration courses, hung out my shingle. Yesterday I couldn't spell AC, and today I are one. Just too stupid not to know you're not supposed to do that. Alvin Community College, where I met my bride, she showed up in November of '74. I saw her in the student union building, the sub. I asked her out the first day. First time I saw her, within 30 minutes, took her out. She laughed. She didn't laugh at all my corny jokes like y'all are, right? She told her best friend, when he calls me back, I'm going to turn him down flat. Guys, there was just one problem with that. I knew that was her attitude. I didn't call her back. She told her best friend a week, but she said, he didn't call me back for a date next week. Went to 2 weeks. She told Martha, this been 2 weeks? What's wrong with this guy? It went to 3 weeks. Ladies, what do you think happened? She called me. We've been together. That was the shortest 3-week marriage that we ever got. We dated for 2 years, but that was a 3-week dating expose that, anyway, had she not been at Alvin Junior College, had I not been there with the super professors, the super administration, and all the things that goes with it, I wouldn't be here today. What y'all do is very, very, we have 7 community colleges in our district. 7 community colleges. Texas has 50 community. Any Texans here? We said it over here. I saw one back over there. Okay, sure. 7 community colleges. Texas has 50. Now y'all won't know this about me, but I spent 4 years in the Texas House of Representatives before I got demoted to Congress. And I was on the Public Education Committee, K through 12, that whole time. My bride taught 4th grade 27 years, and it's all because of the foundation we got at Alvin Junior College. Never forget what y'all do is extremely important. I think the lady that spoke from North Carolina, South Carolina, with that, she said, it's about upward mobility. What y'all do, what was it John F. Kennedy said? Anybody, a rising tide raises all ships or boats, right? What y'all do is doing exactly that. I'm Randy Weber. We appreciate what y'all do.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Brian Sanders, president of Modesto Junior College in California's Central Valley, and I have the honor of introducing Representative Adam Gray, California's 13th Congressional District. Many might recognize him as a freshman member of the Congress, but he's walking in with a decade of experience in the Legislature California Assembly. Notably, he used his time to uplift local institutions of higher education, equipping him for discussions on post-secondary education, and as a proud graduate of Merced College, I'm confident that Representative Gray can understand what community colleges need to serve their students. Congressman Gray.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for the introduction. I am a product of community college, and did 2 years in Merced, my hometown, before I finished my education at University of California, Santa Barbara. Grew up in the Central Valley of California, which is the greatest agricultural region in the world. biggest, most productive farming region. My family's in the dairy business and also almonds and pistachios. And it was a wonderful place to grow up. Community college was an important part of what gave me an opportunity actually to be involved in politics. It's through community college that I got an internship with our congressman and later served 10 years in the California State Legislature. And I certainly both appreciate, in a personal sense, what community colleges contribute to our communities, what they do to train our workforces. You know, in California, the most vexing issues, whether it be housing, whether it be healthcare, it's community colleges that are on the front line of making sure we have the workforce to address those in a meaningful way. In fact, while I was in the state legislature, we made 2 years of community college free, and it's one of the greatest catalysts for young people in California. I'm appreciative of what all of you do, and just want to thank you for being here and know that you have an ally in my office, and look forward to working with you to take on the challenges that our country faces and put those solutions in place. So thank you so much, and I'll let everyone get back on schedule here.
Good afternoon. I am Dr. Jeffrey Nassi. I'm the Chancellor, and it's an honor to serve at Pima Community College in Tucson, Arizona. It brings me a great deal of pride and joy to stand before you and introduce a proud Pima Community College alumnus who has consistently and faithfully championed and uplifted our college. Congressman Juan Ciscomani from Arizona's 6th Congressional District has never forgotten where he came from and brings that into his work in Congress. Currently, he is the co-chair of the Hispanic Serving Institution Caucus, as well as a member of the Community College Caucus. In addition, he serves on the Appropriations Committee, where he has an impact on where federal dollars critical to our causes are directed. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Congressman Juan Ciscomani.
Well, thank you, Chancellor, and hi to everyone. Thank you for being here. We visited D.C. in the perfect weather day, so good time to be in here. From Arizona, this is absolutely freezing. So thank you for your advocacy work. Thank you for visiting us, and thank you for listening to the different stories. I didn't realize when I looked at the schedule how many members are so passionate about this by being having taken a class or a graduate of a community college. As you heard, I am a graduate of Pima Community College. Very proud of that, and that's actually part of the story of how I even got here to Congress or where my life is today. I really couldn't share my life story without mentioning the community college experience. I won't share my life story with you. Don't worry, I'm not going to go there. But I will share this portion of how I even got here. I was born in Mexico. So I immigrated to the U.S. when I was 11 years old. And so it took my family 13 years to finally be able to become U.S. citizens. That didn't happen until after I was done with community college, the University of Arizona. I had done the fellowship here in Washington, D.C., and I became a U.S. citizen in 2006. 16 years later, I get elected to the United States Congress. No other nation in the world would give you that opportunity. So I love this country. I love the American dream, and I think the community colleges they're a creation hub of American dream stories. I always say in government, we don't create American dreams. We don't. We create an environment where people can go on and create their own American dream stories. And they look different for every person. In my case, I'm the oldest in my family. I have 2 younger sisters. My parents worked a lot of different jobs to get us through school and just make it in this country. And like many immigrants, they came here to just work and get things done. But there was no one to tell me what an SAT was, an ACT, how to apply for college. I didn't know any of that. Public school system kid, I fell through the cracks. I played sports, and that's what kept me eligible. Otherwise, I wasn't going to be able to play. But I can't say that there was any other motivator to keep me in class besides my mom tracking my attendance and going Mexican mom on me if I didn't show up to school. But it was. I'll tell you this real quick, and Dr. Nassi has heard this story many times, but I was walking out of my senior year in college, and I was walking out of the counselor's office, and there was a recruiter from Pima Community College and also my counselor that I have seen 3 times in my entire high school career. But he somehow either knew my name or guessed it right that day. I don't know. But I was on my way. This is 3 weeks before graduation. 3 weeks before graduating high school in the year of 2000. And he tells me, Juan, what are you doing after school? I said, I'm going to go to track practice. He's like, God, buddy, I'm talking about high school, man, not today. I was like, oh, I wasn't thinking that. I don't know. I don't know. No one's told, I don't know. He said, well, I've got this. I've got a 1-semester scholarship to Pima Community College. 1 semester. That's all I've got. I've given everything else away. I have 1 semester scholarship. I've looked you up. You're a leader. You're an athlete. You know, you've got some potential, I think, or people around you think you do. So I'll give you this. And he said this, and the rest is up to you. I said, great. I'll take it. Told my parents. They act like I've gotten into Harvard, right? Yes, we're going to college. We've made it in this country. Let's go get it. So I go do that. Anyway, I run for student body president. I'm able to do that. And a couple of decades later, I'm a member of Congress. Here's the story. My wife, first woman in her family to attend college, ever. Youngest of 3, only girl. And she goes on the full academic ride to Stanford. Her parents are immigrants as well, right? So we both get selected for the same program the same year after graduating. It's called Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute, CHCI. They select 10 girls and 10 guys from the whole nation for a competitive public policy fellowship. Top 20 in the whole country to come here and spend the year in Washington, D.C. in the competitive public policy fellowship. They select all students like Laura, Stanford, Harvard, Columbia, Yale, Brown University, all these top universities. And I was the first community college kid they ever allowed in the program. And main thing out of the program is I meet Laura, right? I just heard the love story from the former representative. I was a little more bold than he was. I proposed after 3 weeks of knowing her, and she, crazily enough, said yes. And here we are 6 kids later, 3 boys, 3 girls, happily married. I did marry up. She's still the smartest in the family. By proof is that I chose this career, and she did not choose this career. But nevertheless, this is what I tell our kids. This is what we tell our kids. Mommy went on the full academic ride to Stanford. Daddy went on a 1-semester Mercy scholarship to the local community college. And we ended up in the same place at the same time. Same place, same time. And I tell our kids, and there's 6 of them, and they all have different futures, and I tell them it's not where you start, it's what do you do with what's given, which was given to you, that will make a difference in your life later on. You can start on the full academic ride, and she wasn't given that. She earned that, right? If I had gone to a 4-year university, let alone any Ivy League or any higher university, just a 4-year, I would not have made it. I was not ready for that. But there was a community college in my area that believed in me, invested in me, helped me grow, and helped me get to where I am today. So as many have said, I wouldn't be here would it not be for my community college. So my opponent in the last election may not like that community college, right? Because thanks to them, I'm still here. But what I mean by that is that they invested in my upbringing so much that allowed me to be here. So I want to tell you this as I leave here. You never know what difference you're making in somebody's life. You are creating American dream stories. When you're out there investing in community colleges in whichever way you do, by teaching, by having colleagues, by being a trustee, by being a board member, by being a chancellor, whatever it is, you are investing in that next generation of leaders. Because that program that we were selected for, the 10 and 10, the top of the nation, they've been around since 1981, selecting 10 males and 10 females from the whole country, recent grads from the schools that I mentioned, for 43 years. And we have many chiefs of staff, many general counsels, many of everything, many judges, many of a lot of different successful people out there. And out of their 43-year history, there's only been 1 member of Congress that has come out of that program. And that was that weird community college kid that they let in 2005, standing in front of you today. I am proud of being a community college graduate, and I'll always wear it as a badge of honor. So I tell you, when you go out there, know that you're helping create those American dream stories. What you do is highly important, and there are many like me that are grateful for your work as well. That's why I'll always defend the things that are important to us, like the Headway Act that I introduced, making sure that early Head Start workforce shortages are addressed, or protecting Pell Grants. I actually think Pell Grants should be expanded, not only protected, but expanded to cover more areas as well. Programs like TRIO, where my wife worked at for 3 years of the community college, making sure that that's protected. All these things must be protected. I'm a Republican, and this goes both ways on both sides. We need to make sure that both sides of the aisle understand the nature of these programs and how to protect them. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Kevin Brockbank. I'm the Chancellor at Spokane Colleges in the great state of Washington. And it really is my honor today to be able to introduce Congressman Michael Baumgartner, who represents Washington's 5th Congressional District. As a freshman in Congress, Congressman Baumgartner was selected as Vice Chair of the Higher Education Subcommittee. And before that, he represented our state in the Senate. He led the effort to reduce the cost of college tuition, and he co-sponsored the Washington Promise program, which provided free tuition at community and technical colleges in our state. I can confidently say that we're all looking forward to hearing more from him today, so we please welcome Congressman Michael Baumgartner.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation to come speak with you. I'm about a month into this job, and what I really feel is a sense of appreciation and magic sense, both in this body, but more this republic that we're so privileged to get to live in. And as a new member of Congress, your days are pretty busy. It's every 15 minutes you're doing something new, and it's spinning a lot of plates between your policy committees and your staff and your district back home. We just got internet in the office. The day after we got internet, I think we had 100 protesters show up and demand to know what I was doing about some of the things going on out of the White House. And I thought, well, I'll just get Elon Musk on speed dial here and straighten this all out. But there's a lot going on, and you're spinning the family plate as well too. But I feel just a sense of appreciation for getting to walk these halls, and I hope you guys feel that sense as well too. Not appreciation for our country, but just appreciation for what our community and technical colleges do for this wonderful country of ours. I was pleased in my 8 years in the state Senate, as you heard a little bit about, to dig in and do some things on higher education. One of my frustrations about higher ed at the state level was a lot of members would talk about it, but it would really be their second or third or fourth priority, and if it's a fourth priority, it's probably not really a priority. And so, I have felt for so long that you guys do more with less than almost anyone else in the American education space, and it would just be wonderful if we helped you do more with more, because your mission is so important as we look at our workforce development needs and what's going on with student debt loads and just what kind of America that we want to be. And my goal is to try to get us back to an America that builds stuff with common sense. Quickly, how did we go from a country that could build a Hoover Dam or a Grand Coulee Dam or they built a tunnel under Seattle in 1 year with pickaxes and dynamite, 100 years ago. Now, right now we're working on light rail that's been billions and billions of dollars, taking years and years. I was just like, can we just get a little bit of that back? But, what we need in this country, you guys are producing it. It's folks that can fill real jobs and real needs. And, this is going to be an interesting time in the reconciliation budget, but I certainly am committed to everything I can do as a freshman member of Congress to try to make sure that you guys are supported as best you can be for what's coming in the weeks and months ahead. So I wish I had more time with you today. I actually have to go to a House Foreign Affairs Committee. We have a big hearing tomorrow, and I'm a former State Department guy. I actually met my wife in Afghanistan, of all things. She was born in Britain. We met in a counter-narcotics team in Helmand Province. I always say on the campaign trail, Baumgartner can find love in Helmand Province, Afghanistan. All things are possible, so keep hope alive here. So I have to get to that hearing. We now have five young kids. My oldest is 13, and my youngest is 4, and we're just very, very blessed to be a part of this. And so if you're ever out in Spokane, come say hi, and when you're walking the halls of Congress, know that you have a friend in Canon 124. So thank you very much. You guys have a wonderful day.
I know what you're thinking. Presidencies are hazardous, so I will keep this short. Good afternoon. My name is Dr. John Meduca, and I am the proud president of Connecticut State Community College. Woo! There we go. Serving the entire state of Connecticut, and it is my distinct pleasure to introduce Connecticut's 5th Congressional District Congresswoman Johanna Hayes. Congresswoman Hayes has been quoted with saying that education has saved her life. And as a proud graduate of Naugatuck Valley Community College and the sponsor of the Closing the College Hunger Gap Act, among other pieces of legislation that combat food insecurity, Congresswoman Hayes understands the lived experience of our students. Given her passion for education, I know that she will provide valuable insights. Please help me deliver a warm welcome to Congresswoman Johanna Hayes.
Good afternoon, everyone. I promise you, the last time I saw him in Connecticut, he was not broken. Well, it is a pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you so much, and thank you, Dr. Maduco, for all that you do for the students in Connecticut. I love addressing this group because, as Dr. Maduco said, I am often quoted as saying, education saved my life, and that is not hyperbole. I mean it with every fiber of my being. I took the circuitous route to get here to Congress. This is not my first love. It is not the job that I aspire to. All I ever wanted to be was a teacher, my whole life. From the time I was a little girl, I volunteered to clean the chalkboard and I wanted to play school. I read books to dolls, and my parents, my friends, everyone in my community teases me about the fact that I was so annoying because all I wanted to do was play school. My nickname in the projects where I grew up was the professor, because at 7 years old, I always had a follow-up question, because I had such a reverence for education and for teachers and for school. And that was because school always felt safe for me. I grew up in a very difficult community in Waterbury, Connecticut, where many of my friends and family were affected by poverty and drugs and the 1994 crime bill, and I just saw my community collapsing around me. But when I went to school, it was a very different reality, and I enjoyed it. I tell you all that because I was good at it. I was good at school. I was smart. I did well, I got good grades, I pleased my teachers, and they encouraged me and breathed life into me every day. But something happened. At 17, I got pregnant, and the scholarship that I had won at church was no longer an option, and I dropped out of school. After a few years of my guidance counselor coming to my house every day and calling my grandmother and asking me when was I coming back to school, she put me in, I got enrolled in a program for teenage parents and finished. And immediately enrolled in Naugatuck Valley Community College. I didn't tell anyone in my community that I was enrolling in college because I was afraid I wouldn't finish. I was nervous. On the day of my graduation at Naugatuck Valley, my aunt called me and she said, "Are you graduating today?" And I says, "Why would you say that?" And she said, "Because it's in the newspaper. They have a list of all the students." And she says, "Wait, you're in school?" And I said, "Yes." And she was so upset, and she says, "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell anyone? We could have helped." And I said, "Because I was afraid I wouldn't finish." But every adult at Naugatuck Valley helped me through those 2 years. And I finished on time, and I filled out a FAFSA form for the first time. And I had childcare for my daughter, and I showed up in class. I actually had some of the best professors that you could imagine. I had an anthropology class with a professor who was the niece of Zora Neale Hurston and was actually writing the collected works of their families. It was the first time I had ever heard who Zora Neale Hurston was, and I was helping to catalog her papers with her niece at a community college. I tell you that because it is so incredibly important, because everybody walks in this room and I became a teacher. Did I tell you that? I became a teacher after, I finished at community college. I went on to another state school, Southern Connecticut State University, went back to the University of Bridgeport, got a master's. No, I got my master's at the University of St. Joseph's, and then went back to the University of Bridgeport for a 6-year advanced degree. So I lived out my dream and was named the Teacher of the Year in my city for the first time. We had never had a Teacher of the Year, which felt crazy to me. Became the Connecticut Teacher of the Year. And then ultimately in 2016 became the National Teacher of the Year. All I ever wanted to be was a teacher. And that journey started for me at Naugatuck Valley Community College. And I tell you this because generally when people talk about community colleges, they talk about it as the default option and not the first choice. And many of my students, not only was it the first choice, but it was the only choice. And I don't want anyone to think that, and you know this, I'm preaching to the converted, that it is the leftovers of what else is left after every other option is exhausted. In Connecticut, at a community college, I had professors who were full-time at NYU, at Yale, who taught a class, and I had the benefit of their information, their knowledge, their research at a community college. In Connecticut, at Naugatuck Valley Community College, I took a job working third shift, and so that I could go to school full-time. And the president of the school at that time, after talking to us students, got the mayor to change the bus schedule so that buses would run late for the students that didn't have transportation to get to the campus. That was important because it was an atmosphere where you could walk into the president's office, where the secretary in the financial aid office would stay after and help you collect the paper that you needed to fill out, remember, the booklet that was the FAFSA. That would have never happened to me or been available to me on any other campus setting. So I am so incredibly grateful that life happened for me exactly the way it was supposed to happen. Because I was a first-year student who, again, was very smart. Academically, I was always gifted, but life was happening. And I was in a room with other people who were also experiencing life in real time. First-generation immigrants, people who had full-time jobs, 19-year-olds who had just graduated, students who literally were trying to take a shot on themselves, and we were all in a room together, and I can tell you it was the most full and complete academic experience that I've ever had. And that wired my DNA so that when I stood in front of kids as a student, it wasn't just my experiences that I was bringing into that classroom. I was able to share with them the 70-year-old who always wanted to get a college degree but raised her children, and now she was here in this class just like me, just trying to get by. That's what community colleges do. When I introduced the Prospect Act to make sure that student parents have childcare on community college campuses, and we have learning labs to educate the next generation of our childcare workforce, it was because I lived that. I am every one of your students. When I introduced the Closing the College Hunger Gap, it was because, like me, I had so many students who did not want to take full advantage of an aid package because they were afraid of how much they would have to pay back, so they showed up to school with a granola bar in their pocket and just toughed it out for the rest of the day. I appreciate when my colleagues talk about preparing the next generation workforce, but you are a part of that journey at every level. Skilled workers need degrees and certificate programs. We need to be able to meet the challenges that lay before us. And I always think about the kids in my community, the students in my class. We need people from those communities, of those communities, to go out, get an education, and then go back to their communities to be full and productive citizens. That's what I envision. So I appreciate all of the work that you do. We had a bit of a tussle in Connecticut because there is such ownership over our community colleges. They tried to change they think they changed the name of the Connecticut State Community Colleges to just one umbrella, Connecticut State Community College. But the people in the Naugatuck Valley want the name to be the Naugatuck Valley Community College because there's a sense of community ownership and partnership in these schools. There is a sense of not only does it belong to me, but I belong to it. And that is just something that I'm so incredibly proud of. In Connecticut, our governor and our State Board of Education has made tremendous strides to make community college education free, to make sure that our high school students can get community college credits and graduate with dual. Did I run y'all away? What's up? Don't look, you mad? What'd I do? They want to get our community college students to graduate with with a high school and a college and an associate's degree, which is life-changing, which is game-changing for so many people. I was the first person in my family to go to college. So when I say education changed my life, saved my life, like I said, it's not hyperbole, but it also changed my life. Because at the same time that I was working on my master's degree, my daughter was also a college student. So in the space of 6 years, we went from a first-generation college-educated family to a second-generation college education family with not one but two teachers. And that is something, probably the thing that I am the most proud of. When I became the National Teacher of the Year, I went on a national tour and became the ambassador for public education. And one thing that was immediately apparent to me was that many of the people that were making decisions for our children on behalf of education and talking about what happens in a classroom when the doors close had never actually spent any real time in a classroom, had never lived through the experience of getting a kid who dropped out of school like me to come back, had never actually had to sit with children and see the challenges and the barriers and the obstacles that they face as they pursue a higher education. And there was such a vacuum and a need for real, authentic information to be a part of this legislative process and the work that we do. And somehow, by a series of unfortunate events, I ended up here. But today I know that this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. As we are faced with challenges to public education, to higher education, to the future of education writ large, as we are talking about lowering the cost of college and Pell Grants and the student loan repayment program, the voice of someone like me is so incredibly important in these conversations. As you all are here today for this legislative forum and taking meetings with members of Congress, I implore you to put names and faces to the budgets and the line items that are being discussed to help them understand not only the impact and the importance of the work that you do, but what happens in the absence that will be created if funding is stripped. I don't have time for people to give flowery speeches and command applauses if at the point where you have the opportunity to do something about it and vote on a piece of legislation, you do just the opposite. So on behalf of 17-year-old me, I ask you, I mean, right now I'm competing in my category. I'm doing all that I can to push back cuts, to make sure that the students who just want a shot, they're not asking for anything different, just a shot at a chance. I didn't ask anybody to do anything different for me. I knew it. I got to find a babysitter. I got to show up ready. I have to stay up late to do my homework. I have to work full time. And when I got in that class, I didn't expect my teacher to treat me any different. I just wanted a shot. And I think for many of you, as I'm speaking, you know somebody just like me that you work with all the time. This work is not for the faint at heart. And every day I am reminded of the awesome privilege that I have of being able to do for someone else what the secretary in the financial aid office did for me, what the president at that college did for me, what the bus driver who used to wait for me every day because he knew that I got off of work at 6:30 and my class started at 7:15, and he would wait for me every day to make sure that I wasn't late. I just want to have the chance to be that kind of a life-giving blessing to another kid right now who doesn't see anything in front of them but darkness. But also to help them understand that this is not a default option. For some of us, it is by design. Thank you.
So I've been rushed up here because I know that we're all anxious to go into the weather and have dinner and do all those things. But good afternoon. I am Marie Sullivan, and I serve as the board secretary of the Maricopa County Community College District Governing Board. And as you know, Maricopa County is Phoenix, Arizona. I have the distinct honor and delightful privilege to introduce to you Arizona's 13th Congressional District Congresswoman, and my Congresswoman personally in my district, Yasemin Ansari. Before she became a member of the United States Congress, Congresswoman Ansari served as a councilwoman for the Phoenix City Council. And in that capacity, she supported the inauguration of the Phoenix Promise Program, which offers tuition assistance to Phoenix residents seeking a 2- or 4-year degree. Even though Congresswoman Yasemin Ansari is a freshman in the United States House of Representatives, she is no stranger to making an impact and being of service to her community. And I can tell you that if anyone is going to step forward, step out, and be strong, it is Congresswoman Ansari. I've known her to stand for her ideals, the values, and the passion that is necessary to change the world. So with that, I'd like you to help me welcome Congresswoman Yasemin Ansari.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's so wonderful to see you all, and welcome to Washington, D.C. I know you've had a very long afternoon, and I'm the last speaker, so I will be brief. But thank you for that kind introduction. I've known Marie for several years now, thanks to her incredible work with Maricopa County Community Colleges. Again, I'm Yasemin Ansari. I represent Arizona's 3rd district. That's Phoenix, Glendale, and Guadalupe. I'm very new to the job, 5 weeks in, but I will be honest with you, it actually feels like a lot longer. It's been every day you wake up, truly have no idea what's going to happen. And it's been a really, really tough time, especially the last 2 weeks or so with, all-out assaults on federal agencies and critical funding and our federal workforce and programs that really affect every American. It's been really tough. Last week, I was at USAID, U.S. Treasury, the Environmental Protection Agency, yesterday at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, obviously the agency that is responsible for protecting consumers from fraud and abuse. and really devastated by the assault as well on the Department of Education. I'm a proud product of public schools myself and really see the value in our public school system and the opportunities that it gives to students in my district and across the United States. As Marie mentioned, I previously served on the Phoenix City Council, and I'll just say my personal experience through my professional capacity with community colleges has been nothing short of excellent. The Maricopa Community College system has been the most extraordinary partner to the city of Phoenix and to the community writ large for so many things. One of my proudest accomplishments actually on the city council was starting something called the Phoenix Promise Program, and we modeled it after the city of Mesa, Arizona, that did a similar program. Essentially, we were able to use $5 million from the American Rescue Plan, obviously the aid package that was passed during and in the aftermath of the pandemic. We took $5 million, allocated it to this program in partnership with an organization called Aliento, which works with immigrants and in particular DACA students as well, and essentially provided their final bit of funding that they needed to be able to pursue a community college education. So that was 800 students who benefited from this program, and the reviews of our community college system and the game-changing impacts that it has cannot be overstated. With Phoenix also being the 5th largest and fastest growing city in the country, I'm sure many of you have heard about the semiconductor industry growing in Phoenix, and we also have a shortage of nurses and healthcare workers. Community colleges, again, have been a vital partner to us to be able to train the next generation of the workforce in these critical areas that are just going to be incredibly important to our economy moving forward. So you have my wholehearted support for community colleges. Community colleges and public education writ large is something that I value deeply. I will fight back against all proposed funding cuts to this and really want to shine a light on the stories from my district and my community that showcase why this is so important and why we have to continue investing in our community college system. So most importantly, thank you all for what you do, and thank you for being here to advocate and speak with members of Congress, because I think it is very powerful at this time for them to hear your voice and to understand the impacts that decisions are having. So thank you so much, and again, it was an honor to be here. Thank you.
All right, everyone, it is our appointed time. A couple of instructions before we leave, and I just do want to do a special acknowledgement. We've had 14 speakers that have come in the last 1 hour and 54 minutes. I just want to acknowledge the public policy staff of AACC and the ACCT for making that happen.